Welcome to this week's podcast episode. I brought on my friend and former sorority sister, Emily Mason. Emily, welcome.
Thank you, Heather. Thanks for having me. Very excited.
Give a little background. Where do you live and what do you do?
All right. So my background, I live in horrible, nasty San Diego. It's gross weather all the time. And what I do is I am in the corporate world. So I train sales reps.
And for those that don't know, Emily is super dry and sarcastic.
Very dry, very sarcastic. This show is probably going to be your worst. So people embrace yourself for the next 20 minutes of just boredom.
Emily, no way.
Phone off, of course.
All right. So the reason I brought you on today, I want to discuss with you, you did an experiment this summer, 90 days of sobriety. And I know we have a lot of things to talk about, but I think what was most interesting to me is, number one, it's summer season. So baseball and barbecues and I remember when I was out there in San Diego, we got to meet up again, but I was like, you're going to be sober during summer? But maybe give a little background, what brought that about and how'd it go?
Sure. So if anybody knows me, I would say they know that if they want to just blow off some steam, I usually get a phone call like happy hour. So I kind of formed this identity with happy hour and drinking. And like most people, it's a cultural thing that's very much ingrained in our day-to-day here in the United States of America. But nonetheless, I was, drinking, casually every evening, socially, not by myself. I started noticing like a slight pain in my right side. Like, I wonder what that is. And like anybody would do, I WebMD'd it. So I diagnosed myself. I'm like, that must be the liver. So upon doing further investigation with blood work, I've come to find out that indeed my liver was saying, you know what, find something new to do. And so that was my wake-up call that I needed to change it up. And so that's the beginning of my journey. And so I did.
And so you just decided after some doctor's appointments or tests or whatever that, all right, I got to take a 90 days sober break.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness, the doctor just recommended 3 weeks with no drinking. I just decided, looking back on my life, I've been drinking since don't tell my parents, but 15 years old. So, I mean, when was the last time I ever did like a full body cleanse, like for a month straight, 2 months straight? So I decided to give myself the challenge to let little buddy regenerate, which that organ does, which is wonderful. So I thought, you know what, 90 days would be perfect. So I decided to embrace the challenge and all the ups and downs with it.
Well, and why don't you talk about what was that like socially? I know you were dating at the time. What is that like?
Socially, it's extremely awkward initially and throughout. I'm not going to lie. It's not like the awkwardness subsides. And you have to really be creative with how you do social activities like dating, like your day-to-day, because so much of what we do revolves around going out for drinks, which you still can do, but it's not the same scenario, right? So I had to be very creative. Dates got interesting. I did hiking. I did runs. We did a lot of coffee dates. And sometimes it was fun because the guys sometimes would play along too and not drink, which was nice. I didn't care either way, but I just thought it was nice of them to do so. But it was interesting because I think a lot of times alcohol masks a lot of our emotions, especially on a date when it's very uncomfortable. So I got the joy of breaking out into like sweats and awkward moments. And I think I've learned to embrace this, but at the time I was like, oh my gosh, there's no escape from this awkward moment.
Well, and even I go out plenty, and there's plenty of times. I remember even in college back then, I was happy to be the DD as long as I had a drink, water, soda water, whatever in my hand. But then it comes to the point in the evening, it's annoying as all hell when everybody's drunk, wasted. I mean, how do you deal with that? Did you just go home?
I Irish exit it at midnight every time. So, and I have to be honest, my excitement came for the mornings, not the evenings. So I looked forward to Friday evening, Saturday evening in the past. And with this whole change, I actually look forward to my mornings. I woke up super early, which I work East Coast hours anyway, so I'm up at a very early time anyway. So I like getting up before the sun's up. I was planning out coffee shops, and I was doing very productive things. It was weird, you know?
Interesting. You mean you're productive when you're not
So you're super productive on a Saturday, Sunday morning when you don't drink the night before heavily or at all, really.
Well, and talk about what were your physical benefits?
Almost immediately, I would say my skin was like really much softer. I think a lot of it has to do with the hydration situation. If you be smart, drink and drink water, which I wasn't doing enough of. So I think the dehydration over time, really played an effect. So my skin was a lot softer. Skin cleared up a lot. I noticed that I was like sweating easier. I wasn't like a lot of when you're working out and stuff, I wasn't really sweating a lot. My liver was kind of taking a break. It was saying, you know what, I'm not going to, be functioning that much for you. So so now I sweat more than I used to, which is a good thing. I embrace it. But I'm trying to think of other physical things, but those are the ones that come to my mind right away.
Other things you taught me was waking up with a clear head, remembering
Yeah.
everything from the night before.
Yeah, so it was a running joke. Everyone's like, "How do you feel?" I'm like, "Well, I woke up with a raging clear head and accounts of everything I did from the night before." Which, on the contrary, you wake up with a headache and you have very, blurred kind of concepts of what happened the night before. On the flip side, when drinking, sometimes. So it's kind of a running joke.
Well, and even what about sleeping? How'd sleep change for you?
Oh, sleep is incredible when you don't drink because you really are majorly affected by um, your with alcohol use and sleeping. I mean, you can drink one cocktail, two cocktails. This isn't like excessive drinking. So let me clarify. This isn't excessive drinking that I was doing. It was just, your traditional going out, being social drinking. But
Right.
yeah, sleeping is much better. You don't suffer from things like, any sleep deprived, going into REM state, etc.
Well, and I
So
noticed even for me, literally 1, 2 glasses of wine, my sleep is ruined. Ruined.
yeah, it can be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you wake up. I don't like feeling the way, I don't like waking up anymore feeling that way. So I definitely have changed a lot since then.
And let's talk about that. So your 90 days sobriety is over. What is it like now? Have you brought social drinking back in? What's it like now?
No, I do drink socially now. I'm a lot more cautious of how much water I consume. And I told myself I was going to do 2 days a week, but I got a little lax, so I've got to get back on the wagon. But I think I have a strong why factor now, and I know how to do it, and I know I can do it. And so, for instance, this week I did 3 days in a row without, having a happy hour drink with friends. I'll still go out, but I just drink soda waters, which have been a lifesaver instead.
Yes.
So, I mean, I have to say that I could probably still do better post 90 days. I'm not perfect, but it's definitely been a change.
Well, and I want to talk about something you shared with me previously were your aha moments. And so this whole identity of Emily's the party girl and like, let's go out and have a good time. And Emily likes to drink. And so that was your identity. So how
Hmm.
did your identity shift? And let's talk about this whole strong why factor, why you even did this.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I mean, I think everyone has kind of an identity. If you have those girlfriends, if you want to have a night in watching Sex in the City, eating popcorn, you know who to turn to. That's also me too, by the way. But yeah, I think we all kind of get tied up in our identity, and I know a lot of people, like hanging out with me. I create a good vibe, I guess, socially. So, um, it is kind of a tough scenario to shift gears. But what I found in this process was I had a really great support from my friends. So I thought immediately when I was doing this, I'm like, how someone says, "Oh, I'm going to go on a diet," and they're like, "Oh no, come on, have the burger, have the French fry. You can start your diet tomorrow, right?" Well, let's pretend like your friend just had a heart attack and now they want to start a diet. You're not going to likely want to offer them a cheeseburger, right? That'd be kind of rude. So I think the same situation lied here too. My why factor was really around the fact that it was kind of a health situation. I never encountered a scenario where my drinking would ever be a problem. Like I said, I was drinking casually, like two drinks a night, if that. So the fact that my liver was saying, "Hey, wake up," that was my big why factor. I think sometimes you have a big why factor by way of fear, and I think mine was definitely generated by fear. And I think there's times we can have a big aha moment that's positive, and my hope is that in the future I'll have more of those positive moments that not me acting out of fear per se.
Yes. So what advice would you give to somebody that they're thinking, gosh, maybe I'll try a 30-day sobriety, or maybe they want to do a 90-day. What advice would you give them? And especially since you know the roller coaster of what it was like, what would you like to share?
I would say if you really want to do it and you're really serious about it, have a strong reason why. Have it more than just, I want to try it or challenge myself. Like, I think really dig deep inside to understand what are you really trying to aim for. Another part of me right now, being 34 years old, I don't like this feeling of growing content. So this was my next challenge in life. And I found myself doing these little challenges as I worked up through this age. And I plan on continuing to do this, but I don't like settling. And I think I read a statistic that at age 25, you're pretty much set in your ways, what you eat, what you do, how you travel. And I really want to push the boundaries for that. So I do weird things. I got scuba certified and jumped out of a plane, like last year. So I'm constantly trying to challenge myself. I would say just reach in and understand what your true why factor is. For me, was very much health related. Moving forward, it's still health related, but there's more to it. It's just the fact that I know I can stretch my boundaries.
Well, and even if we could talk to our generation as a whole, because as we touched on, everything revolves around drinking, whether it's camping, going to a concert, Friday night, hiking, because everyone wants to have a beer after, snowboarding, a beer after, or beers in between. So, like, if we could just wake up our generation and, like, what are you numbing and running away from? And let's come up with other outlets.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's tough though. I mean, I think when you first become, sober, not drinking anything, it becomes very apparent how much it's around you all the time.
Yes.
So that's a tough thing, but it's also a cool kind of case study as well. Like, I feel like I'm in the Matrix. Like, I'm looking at it through a different lens. And you're looking at life through a different lens. And so I would encourage it because I think it's a fun challenge and you get to see things from a totally different perspective. And it's not all bad. Like, there's good things in it too.
Well, and let's think about how much money is saved, first of all.
Yes.
Now you don't have Uber.
Until you throw a party after the 90 days, which more than likely makes up for the cost of what you missed out on.
Yeah. So there's so many benefits, and we're not saying, I'm all about balance. And so, yeah, if you can, let's say you do cut back to 2 nights a week. We're not saying never drink again.
Right.
If you like the taste of beer, have a beer. Just tone yourself back.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand what it can be like for your body without alcohol and recognize those changes. Give yourself some time to really see that so you know the difference. I think so many of us are doing routine happy hours, which there's nothing wrong with that. I just think it's nice to understand what you're capable of mentally and physically, what it can do for you. There's many benefits.
Awesome. I would like to close this out with my usual rapid fire questions. So I have four questions for you.
Yeah.
This is just kind of whatever comes to mind, go with it.
Oh, this is going to get weird. Okay. I'm embracing. Let's do this.
What is something you like to do the old-fashioned way?
Oh, pay bills. I still send a check-in with stamp. It's so weird. I know. I've automated some, but I still pay bills snail mail sometimes.
That is old school.
It's awkward. I understand. I still have a checkbook and I actively use it. So yeah.
I even tried to get my dad away from that. And he said, Heather, I'm old school. That's the way I like to do it. And I'm retired. I have the time. And I was like, Dad, whatever you want.
Yes. So I think that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay. What is next on your bucket list?
Next on my bucket list. Well, if it's travel related, I'm thinking Australia. And if it's the next big challenge, I've told myself this for a long time, I need to get fluent in Spanish. Ooh. So that's a must.
And would you like Rosetta Stone? How would you do it?
I have Rosetta Stone. I've used that. I've taken 5 years of it, and I practice my bad Spanish on anybody who speaks Spanish. So, but I have to be more structured with it if I want to pursue it further.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is something everyone should experience at least once in their lifetime?
Oh, let's see. I would just say go go to the Middle East. There we go. I think go to the Middle East. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Why?
I
What stood out the most for you?
just because I think there's, especially when I told my family back in the Midwest, I'm going to go to the Middle East for vacation. There's stigma attached to it, and it was quite possibly one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. And so I'd encourage people to seek out the Middle East in all of its glory. So
And mainly bust outside your comfort zone, right?
bust outside the comfort zone. I love doing that. Yep, stretch yourself.
All right, final question for you. What is your favorite quote or motto to live by?
Quote or motto to live by. What's that one that says there's no greater challenge than the challenge of bettering yourself? I don't know. I think I really screwed that one up. But essentially, you're your own worst critic, you're your own worst enemy, but you're also your own best fan too, if you want to be. So, push yourself and do great things. Make shit happen.
That's awesome. Emily, thank you so much for joining for this week's episode and sharing your story.
Thank you, Heather. Best of luck to you. This was a wonderful experience. So thank you for having me.